Hi, friends. Today I want to share a new story with you. I hope you enjoy it. The morning Marilyn Curtis arrived, I could feel the air change in the office. It was like a slow chill creeping in. She gave off this strong vibe, strict and in control. I was at my desk, buried in my usual paperwork, acting like whatever was happening at the entrance didn't matter to me. She walked in with so much confidence that people stopped what they were doing for a moment. Her neat suit, perfect posture, and sharp eyes scanned the room like she was judging everyone. When she looked at me, I quickly looked down, pretending to read a file. I knew better than to stand out, at least not yet. Julian, right? Her voice was firm, cutting through the office noise. I looked up and saw her standing at my desk with a smug smile and a stack of papers. Yes, ma'am, I said with a polite smile. Good, I need you to handle these. She dropped the papers on my desk, her eyes clearly judging my worn tie and wrinkled shirt. Simple stuff, just right for someone like you. I took the papers, but her words hit harder than the actual weight of the files. She didn't know who I really was. To her, I was just another worker she could order around. But the truth was, I owned this place. Well, 91% of it. I just didn't show off about it. People could think what they wanted. Of course, I said calmly and set the files aside. She didn't wait for an answer. She turned around and walked off, her high heels clicking loudly on the floor. She went straight to her office, already filled with fancy degrees and awards, as if she'd already earned her place without doing the work. As she passed by, the whole office felt tense. People glanced at each other, unsure what to think about the new department head. Sarah, the receptionist, leaned toward me as I walked past her on my way to the break room. She's something else, huh? She whispered, eyes wide. Yeah, I said, grabbing a cup of coffee more out of habit than anything. Things are going to get interesting, she said with a little nod. I heard she already made James from accounting cry. I gave a short laugh, but it didn't feel funny. Doesn't surprise me. Marilyn Curtis was like a storm, but I wasn't worried. People like her always made a big entrance, and burned out just as fast. She didn't know it yet, but I wasn't just a regular employee. I was the real storm she never saw coming. That Wednesday afternoon, Marilyn burst into the office, her heels hitting the floor like gunshots. I had just sat down, looking over some reports, when my cubicle door flew open. Julian. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the office again. She slapped a paper down on my desk, her eyes full of fire. Want to explain this? I looked at the paper, confused. It was a printed email to one of our biggest clients, and it was bad. It talked about bad service, broken products, and said they were ending their contract. I don't get it, I said, picking it up, frowning. I didn't send this. Marilyn crossed her arms, smirking. Of course you didn't, she said with sarcasm, because someone like you couldn't handle something that important. But the email came from your computer. A cold feeling ran down my spine. This wasn't just someone blaming me, it was someone trying to ruin me. I knew I hadn't sent that email. I never would. But there it was, printed clearly, with my name on it. I'd never send this, I said, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was racing. There's been a mistake. A mistake? Marilyn let out a cold laugh. You've made too many of those already, Julian. First your lazy work, now this? It's honestly pathetic. Before I could say anything else, Sarah appeared in the doorway, looking worried. Is everything okay? She asked carefully. No, Marilyn said sharply, waving the paper. Julian here thinks he doesn't have to take responsibility. I looked at Sarah, glad she had shown up. Sarah, I didn't send this email, I said firmly. Someone must have used my account. Marilyn rolled her eyes and stepped closer. Now you're blaming someone else? How typical. I stared at her. This wasn't really about the email. It was about power. She wanted to make an example of me, humiliate me in front of the office. But she had no idea who she was dealing with. I'll find out the truth, I said calmly, and believe me, Marilyn, it will come out. She didn't reply, just glared at me, then turned and walked away, heels clicking. As the door shut behind her, I let out a slow breath. This wasn't me, not even close. The conference room felt heavy with tension as I stepped inside. The shareholder meeting was about to start. Marilyn was already there, by the window, chatting with a few executives like she owned the place. She didn't see me at first. When she did, her eyes narrowed and her lips curled into that same smug smile. I quietly took a seat near the back. That's how I liked it, for now. Just before the meeting started, Marilyn locked eyes with me. She looked surprised, even offended that I was in the room. She marched over quickly, her heels loud in the silent room. "What are you doing here, Julian?" she whispered harshly. "This meeting is for senior staff and shareholders, not regular employees." I looked up, keeping calm. "I was invited," I said. Marilyn scoffed and leaned in. "You don't belong here. Leave before you embarrass yourself." The room was tense, but I didn't move. The meeting was starting, and soon, everything would change. Before she could say more, the doors opened. The company president walked in with the board members behind him. He took his seat at the front, eyes scanning the room. He looked at Marilyn, who quickly fixed her posture, trying to look perfect. The meeting began with the usual updates, profits, future goals, business talk. But I knew what was coming. Then the president looked down at a paper and cleared his throat. "Before we go on, there's something important we need to address," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "There's been confusion about who actually owns most of this company." Marilyn shifted in her chair, glancing at me. The president continued, looking right at me. "We have a major shareholder in the room. In fact, he owns 91% of the company." Marilyn's face changed instantly. She looked confused, her proud smile fading. "The person who owns those shares is Julian Ball," the president said. Gasps filled the room. Marilyn went pale. She turned slowly toward me, her face frozen in shock, mouth open like she couldn't find words. I stayed in my seat, calm and quiet. The president nodded toward me. "Julian isn't just an employee, he's the one in charge here. I've known this for years." Marilyn stumbled a step back, struggling to keep it together. This can't be true," she whispered. "He's just a regular worker." I stood up at last and spoke. "Not exactly, I've been watching and waiting, but now the truth is out." Marilyn, her face turned red, and for the first time since I'd met her, she had nothing to say. "You treated me, and others, badly because you didn't know who I was, but now you'll have to face the consequences," I said, meeting her eyes. Marilyn's fall had begun. The next morning was quiet, but it felt like something big was about to happen. The meeting had shaken the whole office. People whispered as I walked by. Some who had known me for years couldn't even look me in the eye, unsure what to think. The secret I'd carried was gone, but that just brought new pressure. At noon, the president asked us to come to his office. Marilyn and I were both called in. I knew why. As I walked down the hall, I saw Marilyn ahead. Her walk was slower than usual, her confidence gone. She didn't say a word as we reached the office door together. For once, Marilyn Curtis wasn't sure of herself. We stepped inside. The president was behind his desk, hands folded, looking serious. The room felt heavy with silence. "Sit," he said firmly. We sat. Marilyn kept glancing at me nervously. I looked at her and saw that she wasn't as put together as usual. She looked shaken. "You both care about this company," the president began, "but yesterday changed everything." Marilyn finally spoke, her voice quiet and shaky. "Mr. Williams, That's enough," he said, cutting her off. "I've heard your excuses, Marilyn. The damage you've done can't be fixed with words." Her eyes widened, and her lips trembled. "But I didn't know who Julian was," she said. "If I had known." "That's the problem," I said, calm but firm. "You shouldn't have to know someone's title to treat them with respect." The president nodded. "Julian's right. It shouldn't matter who he is. This company values respect and teamwork, and you've gone against that." Marilyn clenched her hands, getting more upset. "Please, I can change." I was under pressure. "I didn't mean." "Stop," the president said. "You've crossed too many lines. And it's not just how you treated Julian. We've also had serious complaints about how you handled clients and staff." She turned to me, her eyes pleading. "Julian, please, we've all made mistakes. You know what it's like to be under pressure. Help me fix this." I looked at her for a long moment, remembering how she had treated me and others. "This isn't about one mistake, Marilyn. It's about taking responsibility." Her shoulders slumped. She knew it was over. The president sighed and looked at her. "Marilyn Curtis, your actions leave me no choice. You are fired, effective immediately." The words felt final, heavy. Marilyn's face went pale. She sat frozen in her chair, as if she couldn't believe what she just heard. I watched her in silence. I felt a mix of relief and pity. She had done this to herself, but it was still painful to see. The president stood. "You have until the end of the day to pack your things." Security will walk you out. Marilyn finally moved, her hands shaking as she gripped her chair. This can't be happening, she whispered, more to herself than to us. She looked at me again, her eyes full of desperation. Julian, I didn't mean for it to get this bad, I was just trying to prove myself. You get that, don't you? I looked at her for a long moment. I did understand pressure. But I didn't understand the way she had treated people. I understand pressure, I said quietly, but not cruelty. She had nothing left to say. The president stood again. That's enough, he said, looking at both of us. Marilyn, you made your choices, now you have to live with them. Marilyn looked like she wanted to argue, but she saw the look in his eyes. She stood up slowly, still trembling. Fine, she whispered, I'll go. As she opened the door, it creaked loudly, a fitting sound for the moment. She paused, then looked back at me one last time. The pride that once filled her was gone, what was left was something broken. I said nothing, just watched her leave. The president rubbed his temples and sighed. I didn't think it would come to this, he said quietly, but it had to be done. I nodded. It was time. He gave me a small, tired smile. Julian, you handled this better than most would have. I'm proud of you. I didn't say anything at first, I was still thinking about everything that had happened. Thank you, I said at last, but now it's time to move on, for everyone's sake. He nodded. With you in your position, I believe this company will be just fine. As I left his office, I felt a strange sense of peace. Marilyn was gone, and with her, the heavy shadow she'd cast. Her fall was bound to happen. And now, the company could finally breathe again.